Alright, in this tutorial we're going to create an example page for the animated storybook project. And you should already have some images scanned from a storybook, at least one or two pages. And we're going to take those and put them into a new document in Photoshop. And for this project, we're going to use the film and video presets, and we're going to use the 1920 by 1080 HD video preset. And once you've found that, you can rename your project into something appropriate for the project, and then click Create. So on our canvas here, we're going to add our images in that we have scanned. And we'll use the free transform tool to resize and place these onto the canvas. And for this example, I have two different pages that are really one page scanned, so I'm going to have to kind of stitch them together. So we'll use some of the different tools here. We have the free transform tool that we can use, the move tool, and make sure that you have your text included on the page as well. So we'll just do some resizing here. And some placement, just to try to line these two pages up together. And once you have that together, you're going to merge the layers together so they'll be in one image. And then I'm just going to use some selection tools here to clean up the page, make it look like it's supposed to all be on one page. And then we'll use some of the blending tools to try to make this image look a little cleaner. I tried using the spot heal tool, it didn't really work too well. Blur tool or the smudge tool worked okay, wasn't really coming up with what I exactly wanted. So I think I ended up finally using the clone stamp, seemed to be the best tool for this. So the clone stamp, just sampling some parts of the artwork here to make it kind of blend together, and then I'll go back to the smudge tool and just kind of smooth things out a little bit. The next part of this process, once you have your image set, is to pick something to animate. So what I'm doing here is using the selection tool to pick part of the image, which is going to be Boomer's tail wagging here. And you really can use any selection tool you want. You just have to figure out a part that you want to animate and select it. So I'm using the quick selection tool here, but you could use the lasso or the magnetic lasso. And then you're going to right click on that layer and choose layer via cut. And what this will do is put that selection onto a new layer, and it actually gets rid of what was behind it. So now we're going to have to replace that. So I think probably the clone stamp tool is going to work best for this application, but you could use the paintbrush tool or the smudge tool, or just make copies of stuff and paste it in. Depends on the artwork and what book you've chosen. So be careful when you're getting close to the artwork. So now I've got that on a new layer and I'm ready to create my animation. So I'm going to go up to Window and Timeline and create a video timeline, and we'll see our layers on there. And let's expand that out and we'll look at what we have here. And we have a position as an option to animate, but what we're really looking for is transform in this situation. So we've got to convert that to a smart object. And now we've got our transform option. To rename that quickly into tail, and now we can add our keyframes in. So I'm adding keyframes here, and I want to change the center of rotation. So I'm going to move that little center of rotation indicator, and now you see how it kind of rotates a little more naturally for a tail. And I'll move it down a little bit into place, and that looks pretty good. So now once I've got that, I'll place it and I'll move forward in my timeline. And from here, it's just kind of repeating the process. So I'm using the free transform tool, and I'm going to continually change that center of rotation. And I'm just going to kind of rotate the tail back and forth. And as I go forward, creating more keyframes. And what I'm trying to create here is the effect of obviously a wagging tail on Boomer. And that's going to go right in with the story. He's being asked to, if he wants to go for a walk or he thinks he's going to go for a walk. So that's the action that we're going to put in. Him dog wagging his tail. Pretty natural. The next step is to record your voiceover. Open Adobe Audition and start a multi-track project. Name your project and then choose a location where you want to save it. I would suggest a project folder. And then click OK, and you'll see this window open up with a timeline, which is familiar. And you may have to choose your audio input, so connect your USB microphone. I'm using the built-in mic on my laptop, but you're going to have to choose your USB mic when you plug it in. Then click on the R to arm the track, and then you're going to click on the record button on the bottom to record your sound. Read through the voiceover on the page. Once you're done, hit stop. And then play back your recording to make sure you sound good and you like it. If you need to trim any of the clip, you can trim just like we trim other clips in other audio and video programs. And then once you're happy with it, go to File, Export, Multi-Track Mixdown, and Entire Session. You can decide where you want this mixdown to end up. I'm going to choose my project folder. And then once you click Save, you can actually choose what format you want. We're going to keep it as a WAV file, but as you can see, there's lots of different choices, including MP3. We'll just keep it as a WAV file, click OK, and now that's exported to your project folder. So now let's add that audio into Photoshop. I'm going to go to the audio track and click on Add Audio, and I'll navigate to my finished audio file. Click Open, and that will import it directly onto the audio track in Photoshop. And you'll see that the timing is kind of wacky here because my voiceover is much longer than my clips that I have for my animation, so I'm going to have to do a little trimming to kind of move everything around and line that all up. So just make sure that you don't have any of your clips selected when you're trying to move your audio around. You'll see they kind of stay together as they're selected. So try to click away from those in the layers panel, and then you can work with that audio independently and then move your clips around, trim them up, and line up your voiceover with your animation. Boomer was just settling down after his morning walk when suddenly someone called his name. Then Boomer saw his leash. Boomer was very excited. He thought he was going for another walk. Now, once you have that lined up, it's time to add a sound effect. And for this, I like to use freesound.org. It's a great website. You can find lots of sounds on there, so you can download sounds. I would go for WAV files or MP3s. And then we're going to add a new audio track and then bring that audio in the same way that we did with the voiceover. I've transferred this from my downloads folder over to my project folder, and we can open that up. And then we'll again do some sliding around to line this sound effect up with the spot in the voiceover where we want it, and along with the animation. I'm going to put this right at the end and kind of extend my clip out a little bit so Boomer barks excitedly right at the end of the for another walk. Alright, finally, once I'm happy with everything, I'm going to export it. So I'm going to go to Export and Render Video. And in this pop-up window, I can choose the name and location of the file. and I can choose the format, the size of the video that I want, the compression rate, all that kind of stuff. And then I will click render, and this will render the video out, and it'll export it. I'll have my final video, and here it is. Good luck with your project. Boomer was just settling down after his morning walk when suddenly someone called his name. Then Boomer saw his leash. Boomer was very excited. He thought he was going for another walk.